search and rescue would be the primary. You know, we for Hurricane Katrina, our air station here in New Orleans, they came around behind the storm, and they were flying in gale force winds. I mean, they were flying in some pretty rough weather, just tailing the storm. And one of the first rescues was actually in Venice, which is the southern part, as the storm was moving north, in some pretty horrendous weather. I believe they pulled up a grandmother and child near a tree with the waters flowing. So that was one of the first rescues, and then it just didn't stop from there. One of the things that we want to do before the storm hits is move our assets out of the way, because if we stay put and we get destroyed ourselves, we're no good. So we move out, the storm rolls in, and then we move back in. The reason why we lost our VHFM networks was not so much because of the winds and the actual storm itself as much as it was the resulting flooding. The flooding, the water intrusion into the phone exchanges and the equipment that was here in the city, that's what really did the most damage for us. Because like I said, our infrastructure for the most part, with the exception of one of our towers in Venice, was intact. One thing that we found to be interesting was even though the cell phone systems had been damaged extensively and weren't very reliable, the push-to-talk feature on the Nextel seemed to be relatively reliable. I mean, it didn't work every time, but it worked a lot more than you know, we had a lot more success with that than we did actually making phone calls on the cell phone. But the frequency saturation was a problem, because now you have helicopters and boats and vehicles, and you have you know, as the days went on, the concentration of the first responders and the rescuers grew, and everybody had a demand for a radio and to communicate with through their chain, and there was only so many frequencies that people, you know, either were aware of or, you know, that they had in their plans and that they were willing to use. You know, there were communication failures across the board, and a lot of that is I mean, you get hit by a storm like Katrina, it's going to happen. You know, it doesn't matter how hard you plan or prepare, you're going to have some things that fail. So one of the lessons that we took from it was, well, we know that going in, so let's just build as many redundancies as we can that's practical. I mean, we're not going to have, you know, we might not have 100 different ways to talk, but we might have 10. You know, given the money that's involved, the time that's involved, let's look at what's practical and build in as many redundancies as we can. So if Plan A fails, we go to Plan B. If Plan B fails, we go to Plan C. Eventually, we get something that works. On the ATON side, the aids to navigation, and just clearing the waterways, we worked extensively with our partnering agencies, NOAA, with sonar, weather issues, a lot of the different ports up and down the river, and we had to survey the river and take a look at our aids to navigation and open that up as quickly as we could, because the grain harvest, you know, in the Midwest had to be exported, and there were just a lot of pressures. So we had a lot of good face-to-face contact. You know, if you want to talk about communications, I think the best form is face-to-face.